If you are feeling challenged with getting your clients or your members to commit to their fitness and nutritional goals, then today's guest is worth the listen. The Joy Choice is the latest book from Dr. Michelle Segar, and she is here today on the Fitness Business Podcast to tell you all about the science-based approach to sustainable behavior change. Are you a first-time listener to the podcast? Welcome to the family, and thank you for finding us. We have a large collection of episodes to choose from, over 400 to be exact. Make sure you go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and you can listen to the entire catalog of shows. Now, if you're a regular listener, thank you. We appreciate you coming back week after week. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Dory Nugent, and today the author of Joy Choice, Dr. Michelle Segar, joins us as she teaches us about brain-based solutions that turn the old behavior change paradigm on its head. Dr. Segar is an award-winning researcher at the University of Michigan, as well as a health coach with almost 30 years studying how to create sustainable changes in healthy behaviors that can survive the complexity and unpredictability of the real world. We will hear from Dr. Michelle in less than 2 minutes. First, we want to give a huge shout out to Discover Strength for sponsoring this episode.
At Discover Strength Franchising, we know you want to own a thriving fitness business. We believe you should be able to do work that you are passionate about while also making a great living. Imagine owning a distinguished fitness business backed by a market-tested business model where efficient 30-minute strength workouts are provided to your clients by expert, educated personal trainers. Here's how to get started. Head to discoverstrengthfranchise.com and fill out the contact form. Set up a pre-qualification call with our franchise team. Join us for a mutual discovery day. So head to discoverstrengthfranchise.com so you can start falling in love with your work again.
Thank you, Luke, and the team at Discover Strength. Hey, fitness family, Discover Strength is definitely worth checking out. Go to www.discoverstrengthfranchise.com.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
What are your top 3 tips for achieving long-lasting changes in eating and exercise?
The first tip is always contextualize the change within people's surrounding life context, because we want to make sure the change can survive within the unexpected and complexity. Number 1. Number 2, we need to derail all or nothing thinking in our consumers, because that is getting in the way maybe more than anything. And number 3, we want to teach them how to, in the moment, make choices that are going to favor their long-term health, well-being, and fitness goals. And we can do that through purpose, joy, and play. So those are my 3 tips for you.
Wondering who next week's guest is? Well, I'm going to tell you. Chandler Walker, the co-founder of Stone Age Fuel School of Fitness, joins the podcast and gives his expert advice on how to sell more high-ticket memberships. Now, after this week's interview, I'll introduce you to Chandler and you'll hear why you need to come back for his episode.
This podcast is brought to you by Hapana. Hapana is a cutting-edge membership management solution prioritizing insane engagement. Hapana puts your brand first so you can facilitate deep, meaningful connections with clients and members to book, pay, consume content, and build community. Hapana partners with fitness brands in both the boutique and big box segments that want to drive efficient operations and maximum engagement with clients and members. And they do this by providing direct world-class support with a passionate team who cares about your success. To see how you can transform your brand, go to hapana.com and ask for a demonstration. Hapana, engineered for engagement.
Let's get started with this week's interview with Dr. Michelle Segar.
Dr. Michelle Segar is our guest today, and she is here to help us understand the brain's self-management system. Michelle has written 2 books. The first one was No Sweat, and today she's going to talk about her latest book called The Joy Choice. Welcome, Dr. Michelle Segar, to the Fitness Business Podcast.
It's great to be here, Dory. Thanks for having me.
Michelle, I saw you, should I say, on, you did a little talk with Rex Roundtables. It was a great presentation. How did you make out with that?
Oh, it was really fun. It's a great group. It's my second time speaking to the group. I was excited because I got to share this new information that's in the book, my new book. So that was really fun to do.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, you wear a lot of hats. You're an author, you're a researcher, you're a health coach, you serve on a multitude of committees. So it was only right to have you here on the Fitness Business Podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Now, I have to ask you, out of all of those hats that you wear, which one are you most proud of?
Gosh, that is such a hard question. Because I guess I would talk about, I can't give you a one, because the work that I do both in research and academia, but also the health coaching, my research and academia would be really hard to be meaningful. And it wouldn't be as meaningful if I weren't working with people in real life, helping them with their real daily challenges. But if I didn't have the research, then it wouldn't help me help them as much. So it's totally an intertwining of the two.
I know if it was me, I'd be super proud of being an author, not only one time, but 2 times. So your first book was called No Sweat. And now today we're going to talk about your latest book called The Joy Choice, How to Finally Achieve Lasting Changes in Eating and Exercise. I have a couple questions for you, but before we get started, do you just want to add anything to that?
No, to tell you the truth, well, I guess I do have something to add. When I wrote the No Sweat, I didn't think there was another book in me. The No Sweat had reflected the last 20 years of my academic and health coaching life. And the purpose was just to share with people what I'd learned so that they could use it both in their personal and professional lives. People are using it in their health coaching programs. I know people are training fitness professionals in the method that is described literally step by step. But when I started bumping up against new issues with clients, and I started learning about the new science related to our brain's self-regulation system, I got lit on fire, and I thought, I've got to share this new information. And so it chose me. I didn't choose it. So yeah.
Okay. And when you talk about your academic side, you're talking about University of Michigan. You're a professor for the university.
I'm a researcher at the University of Michigan. Yes.
Okay. Researcher. And you have your PhD as well. So we like to call you Dr. Michelle, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Well, let's get started with our questions. You kind of tipped a little bit already into the first question, but I'm going to re-ask because I know you have a lot more to add to it. And that is, pretty much since the second book here now, how has your thinking evolved about helping people create lasting changes in exercise since you've written the first book, No Sweat?
Right. Well, No Sweat, the emphasis in No Sweat was on how to help people transform exercise from a chore into a gift, how to change the type of motivation they had from low quality to high quality. And it was all focused on going forward. But really, even when we set people up for success going forward, if we don't train them how to deal with the bumps in the road that are going to come, then they can still get derailed. And so what I started focusing on was these bumps in the road, the things, the unanticipated challenges and conflicts that get in people's way, or the culprits that all of a sudden arise and people go, oh no, I can't get to that class at the gym, or no, I can't take the run. And so the Joy Choice is really focused on the new science and strategy that can help people learn how to solve the problem and help even professionals learn how to pinpoint what's really getting in people's way.
Yeah, I read when I was doing my research, not only about the Joy Choice, but also about No Sweat. And I liked how you just kind of talked about, one step at a time, work on a pathway. And I really thought that was some really neat wording that you used.
Yes, it is one step at a time. And one of the things that really gets in people's way is the idea that they have to do it right. And, to a great extent, a lot of the behavior change strategies that we've learned that have been taught to just people in society and the fitness industry too, gives us strategies for behavior change with exercise and other types of healthy lifestyles. But it is focused on the strategy in the absence of the context of the crazy, busy, chaotic lives that so many people live. And that's where the gap is that people aren't being taught how to succeed or given strategies that will actually survive in the midst of the chaos. And that's what the Joy Choice does.
How does all or nothing thinking work, and why does it create such a problem for people?
Well, that is the question. And how it works is it stops us in our tracks because it's literally I'm either going to do it all, or I don't do anything at all, or I do nothing. And so there's only two options. It's a binary, it's black and white. And in fact, this type of thinking, while it's incredibly pervasive all over the world when it comes to exercise, it's actually could be considered a cognitive distortion of all things. So here's what happens. I plan to get to the gym for a spinning class, and I get an unexpected call. That means that I have to go pick up the kids from the kids' carpool when it's unexpected and I can't get to my class. So with all or nothing thinking, there's only one option, really. It's nothing, because I can't get to my class on time. So what it does is it translates into nothing, which further translates into failure again, because it's a loop, and it's a consistency that keeps happening because it's the bias we've been taught to have in society. And we need a different way because it really derails people. Feeling a sense of failure or judgment is a recipe for dropping out and not doing anything. And it's one of the reasons that the fitness industry is having such a such a trouble getting the other 80%ers to join and retain their gym memberships.
Yeah, it's challenging because there's just been this way of thinking, this particular way of thinking for so long that, now we're finding, or the researchers are finding new evidence and new ways to do things. But it's going to take a while to get this 80% to kind of realize it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
But it's got to start with industry. Mm-hmm. So I have an article coming out in the CBI article in June that talks about this very thing. And instead of focusing on our desired target audience's behavior, we actually need to focus on our own behavior in the industry, because what we do is what they start to believe and start to do. So we need to take a step back and say, what messages are we giving? What methods are we using? And what do we need to change to turn it around in the minds of the people that we are trying to attract and get to stick with us? And it's doable. That's the thing.
Throughout the book of the Joy Choice, you talk a lot about choice point. So what is choice point? And why is it so influential in creating changes that last?
So I call the unexpected conflicts that people bump up against, like the example of the person who had to take over the carpool, as a choice point. A choice point could also be, I was going to go downstairs and row on my, erg, but I don't feel motivated to do it. Choice points are what we don't anticipate happening before it happens. And because we haven't learned or been trained in strategies that help us think through real and simple, easy to use ways, it derails our exercise. And again, failure and then dropout. So that's why the choice point is so pivotal. And in the book, I explain a whole new system about thinking about choice points that's positive and purpose-driven and playful.
So the word choice point, Michelle, is that a word that you kind of put together that you use repetitively in your book, or is that a word that's already been out there floating and you're just pulling it into your book?
I came up with the term during a coaching call, but I've since learned that other people use it, other systems use it, even religions use it. So I think, when you start talking about points of decisions and points of choice, that's what happened to me when I was in conversation and I flipped it around and I thought, that's kind of catchier and easier thing. And, and asking my clients which terms they like better, they liked choice point. So, what often happens is when certain ideas come to the forefront through science and just the general societal knowledge base and mindset, we do see common words come to the surface. Like a lot of people talk about values now and purpose. And it's the same sort of thing. It's because there's some truism about it that is becoming known in society.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in the book, you describe the 4 top decision disruptors that people have. Can you just take a minute here and tell us what they are and how they influence people's decision making?
Sure. So the first decision disruptor is called temptation. And temptation is exactly as it sounds. It refers to this visceral inclination to either approach something awesome or avoid something that we're kind of dreading. So if someone's going to go for a run, but they're feeling pulled on the couch, that refers to temptation. And, the new research that I talk about in this chapter talks about how our brains process temptation and that it's not necessarily the thing in front of us that is calling to us, but memories that we have of our past experiences. And that's a very powerful and empowering insight to know. And so that is temptation. And, of course, I talk about how we can more adaptively manage it because it is challenging. They wouldn't be decision disruptors if they weren't challenging, right? The second biggest disruptor that I have seen when it comes to a point of decision or choice is rebellion. And this is rampant in society because it reflects what's going on. Rebellion is when we have reactance against a should, and we want to, say, screw you, I'm not going to do this. And we feel this way when we're making a behavior change, like we're adopting exercise or we're joining a gym, or, we're changing our eating patterns in a way because we think we should do it, or because someone told us to, that we're trying to get their approval, or, and so rebellion is when we basically rebel against something we've decided we want, but it's coming out of a should. And it's a normal human motivation to try to reclaim our freedom. The third decision disruptor is accommodation. And this reflects not any time, but all of the time, putting our own self-care needs, exercise needs, eating in a certain way needs, behind the needs of other people and projects. So, for example, if someone goes to a party and she's been following a new way of eating and she feels great, but someone she cares about just says, hey, eat this piece of cake I just made. And the person doesn't feel comfortable saying, oh, you know what? I'm following this new plan and it feels so great. Thanks anyway. The person goes, sure, and eats the whole thing and feels terrible. I mean, that's an eating example. But so we accommodate the needs of other people's and projects consistently above our own. And believe it or not, that is it's very common, and people don't talk about it as much because there's something deeper about it. For example, I had a client who wound up always postponing and not doing his exercise, his run, because work just kept being more important. And when something else is always more important than you taking care of yourself through exercising, then that becomes a decision disruptor. And the fourth and final one, which is potentially the most pervasive one and reflects all or nothing thinking, is perfection. And perfection is when we basically feel we have to do it right, or it's not worth doing, or we don't do it at all. And even perfection sets the stage and worsens all the other ones. So those are the four key traps that I have found in my health coaching.
Now, I love your four. I can easily check three of the boxes. I have one that I'm like, but the first three for me, temptation, rebellion, and accommodation, for sure. What I wanted to say is that there's a quiz that our listeners can take.
So yes, on my website is a quiz that explains, that helps people assess which is their core trap or traps. And the cool thing about it is that for people in the fitness industry or other industries for that matter, wellness, healthcare, if they have their end users take this quiz, they will be able to use the printout and report as a way to talk through and identify, oh, this is what's getting in your way. The reality is, if we literally can't specifically name what is getting in our way at our point of decision, at our choice points, then we can't overcome it and we can't strategize around it. So having a printout and talking it through with our clients or members is a great way to help them problem solve this and become more successful.
So Michelle, what do you believe are the most important lessons that the fitness industry needs to learn?
I'm going to circle back to something that I said earlier, which is the fitness industry really needs to take stock of what they've done to date that has gotten people to have the beliefs and experiences that they've had in their gyms and outside of their gyms. It's a time of reckoning for the fitness industry, which I think is a positive thing, because I think there is all this potential to bring in the other 80%ers if we do it in a way that's going to meet their needs. And so what the fitness industry needs to do is both take stock and then start to assess what are the core needs and values of the other 80%ers that need to be met for them to want to become a part of our constituency. And I don't think it's hard. I think we just need to decide to do it and then to make the changes that our research suggests we need to make.
So after what you just said, to me, I think the entire fitness industry should read the Joy Choice just to kind of help shift their mindset and kind of what they're preaching to the outside world.
I'm biased, but when I write books, or at least my two experiences, I write them both for the individual, but I write them in a way that the professional and the industry can really understand and run with it so that they can institutionalize new messages and methods in systematic ways across touch points, from marketing to signs in the club to how we talk to personal training clients, for example. So yeah, I hope people read it and they learn some brand new science-based ways to get those 80%ers in and keep them in because of the positive experiences and success they're giving them.
Dr. Michelle, where can people go to find out more about you and, more importantly, your book?
Thanks for asking. So the best place to go is my website. I have a book page and people can, right now we're offering the book in major booksellers in the United States and the United Kingdom. So people can just click through from those booksellers and buy the book. And if they do it before April 26th, they are invited to participate in a live 4-session book club with me and get the workbook that was developed just for the book club so that we can dive deeper into these issues, both for individuals who might be struggling with them, but also for the professionals who are working with individuals so they can gain even more insight into how they can harness this information and material in the book to work with the people that they want to help.
All right, fantastic. Well, Dr. Michelle Segar, thank you so much for coming on to the Fitness Business Podcast. FBP family out there, check out the Joy Choice, how to finally achieve lasting changes in eating and exercise. So please go to our show notes where we will have a link to the website.
Thank you, Dr. Michelle Segar, for joining us today. If you would like to continue the conversation with Dr. Michelle, please head to our show notes for a link to her website where you can fill out the contact page, and Dr. Michelle will be sure to answer any of your further questions. Also, if you would like to purchase a copy of her book, you can also head to either her website and click on the book link, or head to our show notes as it is posted there as well. Our show notes can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, or when you subscribe to the best show notes in the podcast world, they are emailed directly to you. In 30 seconds, I am delighted to introduce you to the co-founder of Stone Age Fuel School of Fitness, Chandler Walker, who will be next week's guest.
Did you know that the active ingredient in most disinfecting wipes has well-documented lung, skin, and reproductive health concerns? That active ingredient is called a quaternary ammonium compound, or a quat, not necessarily something you'd want in a health and wellness facility. VaporFresh disinfecting gym wipes avoid all quats and instead use an innovative citric acid chemistry to disinfect. Even with this greener chemistry, VaporFresh is still EPA registered to disinfect 99.9% of surfaces. VaporFresh is trusted by some of the most premier gyms and college rec centers nationwide. With 1,200 wipes per roll and 4 rolls per case, they offer an unbeatable value per wipe. Order today at vaporfresh.com or Amazon.
Quickfire 5.
FPP family, I present to you Chandler Walker. Please welcome our Quickfire 5 guest.
Welcome, Chandler Walker, to the Fitness Business Podcast, Quickfire 5.
Yeah, happy to be here. Hopefully we can give some people some knowledge and excitement, and it isn't like super boring and they fall asleep while they're driving, because we wouldn't want to see that.
Are you ready for question number 1?
Ready. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm with you. All right, here we go. Let's hear what the life lesson is that you learned during the pandemic.
I learned during the pandemic that it's really important to continue to dress for success and continue to show up and communicate with people and not isolate yourself like a hermit. Because in the beginning, it was like, oh, cool, we can just watch Netflix and never talk to humans. And then we were like, wait, humans are actually pretty cool. Maybe we like them. And so I learned, humans are cool, so we should appreciate them.
All right. Well, while you were watching Netflix, I know there had to be a character out there that you really wanted to be. So if you could play a character from any movie, which character would it be and why?
Oh, man, Tony Stark. Number one, because my 3-year-old daughter, we watch Iron Man and Encanto on repeat every day, all day, which isn't fun. But number 2, he's like the cool businessman who goes through this like philosophical life crisis, who can speak well. And ultimately, that's kind of who I'd like to portray.
All right, that's a good person to portray. I'm on board with that. Now let's complete this statement. Sunday morning, you can find me
sitting next to my 3-year-old trying to figure out how to play Roblox together. She's like, hey, Dad, can you do this? And I'm like trying to bounce around and do the jumps. And I don't know how to operate the buttons sometimes. So then I start to feel old. And then she's like, why can't you do this? And I'm like, I don't know, because I suck. And then I figure it out. So now it's an obsession.
Kids have a tendency to make us feel old. That is for sure.
Exactly.
So hopefully you've been reading lately and you could give us a book recommendation to all of our listeners out there.
Yeah, favorite book right now, The Road Less Stupid. So it's from Keith J. Cunningham, and it kind of talks about good and bad decisions of entrepreneurship and the best places and the worst places and all the things in between. And he has this Texas drawl. So it's a good listen. I like the audiobook. So he does a good job in bringing it out. And I think it's a great read, and it gives you a lot of ideas and a lot of introspection into what works and what doesn't, and why something you did works and why something you did didn't, disasters, why they were disasters. So lots of good stuff.
Well, thank you for that recommendation. I think that might be a first. I can't seem to recall that we've had that book before. So that is awesome. All right. I am now going to hand the mic over to you as you get 30 seconds to pitch your episode next week. Take it away, Chandler.
Yeah, well, if you're interested in learning how to enroll higher ticket clients without manipulation, aggressive tactics, or feeling salesy using a system that I call Compassion Conversations that I developed after over 4,000 sales conversations in my own facility, then you're probably going to want to tune in because we're going to make sales feel pretty good.
Next week's show with Chandler Walker is setting up to be a darn good one. Gym owners and sales directors, bring your team next week for 2 amazing takeaways: how to enroll higher ticket clients without feeling salesy, and the art of compassion conversation. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player, or even better, let us do the work for you and we'll send you the show. Subscribe at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. And now it's time for some thank yous. I'd like to thank our founding partner, Active Management, our partners, Keep Me, MyZone, Discover Strength, Hapana, ISSA, as well as our advertisers, Rex Roundtables, MX Metrics, and Vapor Fresh. We believe what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but woven into the lives of others.